My name is Edwin Gross. I'm with the Retired Senior Volunteer Program of Cranston Senior Services. Today we're going to be talking about scams and swindles. This program was developed by the Bank of America, the National Council on Aging, and WISE, which stands for Women's Institute for Secure Retirement. At this time, I'd like to introduce David Quiroga. He's working with this program, and it's very important that he work with me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Edwin. As Edwin said, this is a very important program that we put together for you folks to protect from scams and swindles. But again, if you are in the area here in the metro area of the state of Rhode Island, you are more than welcome to come here at the center. We are located at 1070 Cranston Street in the city of Cranston, centrally located right off Route 10. You can come. We have a social services department that is fully dedicated to helping seniors in an array of situations such as Medicare, scam prevention, and help with other social services that may be available to our community via federal funds, via state funds, via city funds. So please don't forget that. And if you need to give us a call, you may do as well. More than happy to answer your questions. You can call the volunteer office, RSVP, 401-780-6180.
What do you know about scams and swindles? Do you know that 1 in 5 individuals is age 60 plus, and that 1 in 13 older Americans would be abused, neglected, or financially exploited, and 1 in 44 cases ever gets reported to law enforcement? Only 9% of financially abused victims must turn to Medicaid once their savings have been exhausted. Why do scams target seniors? Basically, there are 4 basic reasons. They are the fears, fatality of aging, dependency on others, and isolation. This is a mommy dearest case study I'm going to be talking about now. Mrs. T's son can't keep a job and has a drinking problem. He moves in with her, and soon afterwards, Mrs. T realizes that there's blank checks missing from a checkbook, and the large ATM withdrawals have been taken from her on her bank account. What should she do? She confronts Tom, and he says that he owes it to her. Besides, he was just borrowing the money. What could she actually do? Well, first of all, her funds are hers and not Tom's. These are steps she should take. She could help Tom find another place to live by asking friends and family to help. She should notify her bank that Tom is not authorized to access her accounts. She should close her account and open new accounts get a new account number. She should stop using paper checks and arrange for automatic bill payments monthly and use debit cards for payments. And she could call the police. I don't know how many parents would actually call the police on their own son or daughter. That's not something that's going to be happening, so I don't think. The usual suspects, who are like the perpetrators, strangers preying on older people who may be isolated, lonely, confused, or desperate for attention, family members to whom the person wants to keep connected, caregivers, family, and others use fear and guilt to take advantage of a senior. These are the top 10 scams that target seniors. Basically, the first one is healthcare, Medicaid, and health insurance fraud. Number 2 is counterfeit prescription drugs. Number 3 is funeral and cemetery scams. Number 4 is fraudulent anti-aging scams. Number 5 is telemarketing. 6 is internet fraud. 7 is investment schemes. 8 is homeowners reverse mortgage schemes. Number 9 is swindles and lottery schemes. And number 10 is the grandparent schemes. At this time, I'd like to ask David the question, what are the tips for avoiding scams and swindles?
Thanks again, Edwin. Like Edwin said, we're talking here about scams, how to prevent scams happening to you or your loved ones. First of all, I would like to focus on health insurance scams. Now, you have to be very careful with the health insurance scams because one of the major scams that takes place here in this nation is through Medicare. So what are some of the things that you should be doing to protect yourselves from scams? Never sign blank insurance claims forms. Now, this is very important because if you sign a blank insurance claims form, it's like signing a blank check, because then the medical provider is going to have the ability to tack on items on either by mistake, by an error, or just by plain fraud to your claim and defraud the federal government. Now, the thing is that when they do this, they diminish the funds available to you directly and to others who participate in that specific program. This is very important. Never give blank authorization to a medical provider for services rendered. Very similar to not signing the blank form. What does that really mean? What that means is that you need to tell your doctor or anytime you're getting medical services that you need to authorize every single procedure by signing a form or every single device they're offering to you. You got to make sure you really need this device. Ask your medical provider when they will charge the expense to your medical insurance, and also, is there going to be a percentage or a automatic set pocket fee, rather a fee that's going to come out of pocket? In other words, money that you pay as a copay. That's very important. Carefully review your insurance explanation benefit statement. What does this mean? Your insurance statement is basically, I don't know, but I'm sure Edwin probably has received such a things where you get a bill. It looks like a bill, but it's a statement from your insurance company where they basically detail all the procedures that have taken place. Usually it's every quarter. And it's important for you to look at that. I mean, usually the big headline on that piece of paper says, this is not a bill. So what do we tend to do when we receive such a paper like this? We tend not to look at it then because, oh, it's not a bill, I don't worry about it. Well, it's not a bill, but it doesn't mean you're not getting charged, in the sense that if you find a procedure there or a device that one, you don't have, or that you return, but it still shows there and it was charged to your insurance company, be it a public insurance company like Medicare, or if it's a private insurance company, those are monies that are being taken out of the healthcare system. So you got to make sure you protect yourself by carefully checking that. The other major thing is, do not do business with door-to-door salespeople. You know, people tend to come around, especially in the summertime when the weather gets better, offering all sorts of devices. Probably the most popular one is those motorized scooters. You see these guys driving around the neighborhoods in vans, and they have a scooter that they're showing people, you know, how to use it, and they claim, you know, you're not going to spend a penny out of pocket. That it's all going to be covered by Medicare, Medicaid if you qualify. But never sign a contract, never agree to anything when you're in a situation like that, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up being pressured by these very skillful salespeople, and you're going to end up buying something that, one, maybe you don't need, two, that you don't want. So don't be afraid to say no. Give your medical insurance information, your card, only to people that really need to know that information. In other words, if you're going to a place where they don't necessarily need that, for example, if a plumber comes to your house and says, oh, can I see your medical card? Why would a plumber need that? You know what I mean? If you're going to a human services agency, such as Contractor Senior Services, and you go to the social services department for help, regarding Medicare, and one of them says, can I see your Medicare card? Then it's perfectly okay, because it makes sense. You know, they need that information to help you. Never ever give that information over the phone to anybody unless you originated or you generated the phone call. That's very important. Keep accurate records, and this is something Edwin has always said too. Keep an accurate record of your medical appointments. Why is this important? Well, it's very important because somebody can be calling you and pretending they're calling you from your doctor's office, and in the spur of the moment, you know, you probably have an appointment coming up Thursday. They're calling you Tuesday, and then you're going to feel comfortable giving this individual, he or she, information because you know you have an appointment coming up. But they might say, oh, we need to change your appointment for tomorrow. Now, I just said, you know, they're calling you Tuesday. Your appointment is Thursday. Tomorrow is Wednesday. In this example that I'm giving you. So then that opens the door for you to start giving information, personal information about you to this individual. So that's very important, because what you do is, in this case, you go and grab your appointment book, which you should have, and look at it and say, well, wait a minute. You know what? I need to call you back. That's what you say. And then you call your medical provider back yourself. You dial the number to verify that, in fact, it is from them. Know if your physician has ordered equipment for you. This is very important, because this happens quite a bit. If maybe you received the pamphlet in the mail that they were going to give you free magazines, you went ahead and signed it, but that was attached to also a free trial of XYZ device. 3 weeks later, sure enough, you receive from FedEx this device. What do most people do? They grab it, they look at it, they're like, oh, well, you know, I remembered something about this. But guess what? It's a $400 device. And maybe in that conversation, you already gave them your credit card information. They're going to bill you for that. So usually when you get this type of devices, although it's not necessarily a scam in the sense that they're really trying to scam you, but they're marketing ploys for you to buy stuff that you don't need. Maybe they're going to only take $14.99 from your credit card per month, but you really didn't need it. You don't want it. So there's usually a grace period for you to return stuff like this. So be diligent and just return it, and make sure you call your credit card company to stop that. Again, you know, the largest scams involving seniors, again, is within the Medicare industry program. To prevent Medicare scams, some of the main points is, of course, protect your Medicare number as you would your credit card number or your bank account number. And in many situations, the composition of the number for your Medicare card has in it your Social Security number. So people who are thieves that know about this, they know how to extract that number. So protect that very well. Don't deal with salespeople who are trying to sell you or putting pressure on you to buy something or claiming that it's going to be paid by Medicare. Do not do that. Review your Medicare statement, just like we went over by reviewing your health statement. Report all suspicious activity. This is very important, although in most cases of scams and swindles, especially the ones that are generated outside the country, it's very difficult for the local municipal police department to really help you, but they are the first line of defense in the sense that you do need to call them, because especially in the identity theft area, you're going to need that police report to kind of establish a date and start that timeline of where to know where you realize this is what's happening to you. You're ready to notify your local authorities, but it's going to take a lot of time to fix stuff like that. So it is important for you to report this. Of course, you can always call 1-800-MEDICARE. Contact your local Medicare Senior Patrol. This is very important, and interestingly enough, well, next week we're going to be going to a training about the medical patrol. We'll have more information coming. How can you avoid telemarketing scams? Now, this is very important because the easiest way for swindlers to get into your home is via the telephone. And specifically with the senior community, have a very difficult time saying no or hanging up on people. I have no problem. You know, when they're calling me and they're trying to sell me something, I don't even say anything, I just hang up. But I know how difficult it can be for the senior population, you know, the older population, that in that sense, you know, they're just well more mannered, you know, they care and they don't want to offend anybody even if they're on the phone. Well, you have to be very careful because this is the way, you know, unfamiliar companies try to, again, push stuff on you that you don't need, or very well could be, you know, criminals, white-collar criminals who are just trying to get your money. Always ask to receive written information. In other words, if it sounds like, you know, if they claim they're from one of the charities that you really like and love and that you may have supported in the past, for example, the American Cancer Society, it's always a good idea to make sure that it is from the American Cancer Society, to ask them to mail you stuff. Don't just agree over the phone, yes, I'm going to give you $50 and give me your credit card number. Don't do that, because that's not going to, one, they're just not going to take $50. They're going to take $500, $1,000. They may take the whole thing. So be very careful. Always ask for a name, you know, full name of the salesperson, the business name, their telephone number. And if you're interested in the product, say, you know what, why don't you give me your telephone number? Let me think about this and I'll call you back tomorrow or later. 8 times out of 10, they're not going to give you a number because guess what? They're just trying to take your money. Always take the time in making a decision. Don't let yourself be pressured. Take that time to really buy something that you really want. If you have information about fraud, report to the state, local, and law enforcement, federal law enforcement as well. The other scam that is very prevalent, and unfortunately in this economy that we're in, a lot of people fall prey to, is the work-at-home scams. Now, the majority of these companies that sell such products are legitimate companies, but a lot of them just take advantage and don't even send you a kit. But what is really what happens here? They call you, they say, listen, we have a system that is guaranteed to make you $3,000 a month. We can send you the kit, the starter kit, and show you how to get this program going. But the kit is, you know, $400. So what do most people do? They'll order the kit. The kit arrives Some people may open the box, start looking and get overwhelmed on all the information, don't have really the initiative of putting on the videos, doing the training. Maybe the stuff does work, maybe it does. But most people, if you're like me, I need a teacher. I need to like have somebody show me, you know? So it's better not to do some stuff like that. I mean, if there's real economic development opportunities, you should check with your local community centers, your local senior center, your local municipality, your city hall, your economic development institution in your local area. There are legitimate programs that help people. Or your unemployment office, they usually have centers where they help you, find a job or becoming an entrepreneur. Small business associations, the chambers of commerce. Those are areas where, if you're really interested in that, you can go to. Edwin, what do you know about home repairs? For example, can you explain to me if someone's in a situation where they need to fix something in their home and they're dealing with a contractor, how should they approach that whole situation?
Tips for avoiding home repair and contracting fraud. Be an informed consumer and take time to call and shop around before making a purchase. Take a friend with you and who may offer some perspective to help you make a difficult decision. Get the contractor state license information and number. Carefully read all contracts and purchasing agreements before signing and make certain that all your requirements have been put in writing. Make sure you understand all contract cancellation and refund schemes. It probably costs you more for the canceling a contract than it actually does for the actual contract itself, so be careful. As a general rule, governing all of your interactions with consumers, do not allow yourself to be pressured into making purchases, signing contracts, or committing funds. These decisions are yours and yours alone. Mommy drain case study. Mrs. B is an 87-year-old woman who's living in her own home. A serious leak develops in her own kitchen pipes. She hires a plumber who runs up the bills, always telling her more work is needed. When she doesn't pay the inflated bills of almost $20,000, she gets threatening phone calls and visits for demanding the money. She isolates herself and out of fear, Mrs. B should do what? Basically, she should check the plumber's reference and report her or him to the Better Business Bureau. Report the threats to the police, file a complaint with the Consumer Protection Bureau and Federal Trade Commission, call on family and friends to help and support, and she should do all the above. I have a question for David at this time. How do you protect yourself and loved ones?
Protecting yourselves and your loved ones. The big one is identity theft. Now, this is a huge crime in the United States of America. And in essence, in summary, identity theft is that they're taking your full identity. They're stealing your financial soul, if you will, on paper. What does that mean? These thieves manage to get your name, your date of birth, your social security number, and all pertinent information. That's your address, where you work, sometimes even some of your references. So they go online, they apply for a MasterCard with a $10,000 limit. Now they have it to come to you, to their address, not your address. And when they get the card, they're going to rack up all the way to the $10,000. And do you think they're going to make the first payment? So one of the things they're going to do is they're going to steal your identity. What I mean by that is they're going to steal your identity on paper, your financial soul. They're going to get your name, your address, where you work, your date of birth, your social security number, and they're going to go online and apply for a MasterCard with a $10,000 limit. They're going to rack up that limit. And do you think they're going to make that first payment? Of course not. And they're going to do that to you. They may even do 3 cards on you, different companies, Discover, MasterCard, and the Visa. And then they're going to do it to your neighbor. They're going to do it to I mean, these people, that's what they do. So you got to be very careful. And how can you really prevent that? It's always good to be aware of your mail, be aware of your bank statements so you can monitor that. Medical identity theft. Now, this is also very peculiar and particular. There have been cases where people, and unfortunately it's professional people who defraud Medicare, where they end up racking a lot of charges against your claim. Let's say if you go to a nursing home and you broke your foot, and all of a sudden you see that you also received speech therapy and XYZ therapy and neurological testing, for your foot, and you didn't get these, and and each item is like $2,500, $2,200. you need to report that, not only to the nursing home that provide or the service provider that give you those services, but report it to Medicare immediately so they can look at it and not pay that account. Common ways, the most common ways they steal your identity. Now, this is very important for you to please take note of this. One is called shoulder surfing. Now, what does this mean? This means, let's say if you're at the bank and you brought your little folder with your stuff and you lay it out on the counter, and then somebody else who's pretending they're filling out a little receipt kind of just does this, looks over your shoulder, and they're looking at your papers. They can glance, oh, maybe you have your social security card on there. They'll write it down real quick. They'll write down other pertaining information to you, and boom, they have your information. Dumpster diving, it literally means that. They dive into the dumpster. So it's very important to avoid people from going through your garbage and taking your identity again, like we just explained, to either buy a shredder, they're very inexpensive, or with your hands rip the papers. But when you rip or cut the papers, rip them up and down, not horizontally, because if you rip them horizontally, you're leaving like all the full sentences and information. So it's better to do up and down. And what I recommend, if you don't have a shredder, is to use 2 bins, right? One on the left, one on the right. And then when you shred a letter or a document, put half of it in this bin and half of it in this bin. That way it's not together. So when people are going through your garbage, they can't put the puzzle together. That refers to dumpster diving. Phishing scams. Phishing scams, although it's not spelled like fishing, it's PH instead of an F, but it's basically that. They're fishing for information. Again, through your phone, they make a call, and we were talking about this in the car on the way to the presentation here, that is very common for people to use, for example, the grandparent scam, where they'll call and say, hi Mary, your grandson just had an accident in Canada. And the poor Mary says, oh, is Johnny okay? Oh, see? Now Mary just gave them the grandchild's name, Johnny. What are these thieves going to do? Well, yeah, Johnny's fine, he dislocated his knee, he's in urgent care right now. It's going to be $850. So could you please wire this money, but it needs to be done like right away, in the next 30 minutes. And they say all that so you don't have time to really think. What do? You run to the bank, you grab your money, you go to a Western Union, and you wire the money to Canada. Meanwhile, Johnny is taking his chemistry class at URI or wherever he's going. So you got to be very careful with the situations. Ways to protect your identity. We sort of already touched upon a few things. The example I gave about the garbage, the 2 bins, how to rip the papers, invest in a paper shredder. They also sell something called the identity guard, which is basically a huge square stamp of about 8 inches and 3 inches going down. And basically what you do is you stamp all your documents where you have your name and maybe your social security number or other information. You basically just block it out. You go bang, 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 block it out, and then you throw it. You probably, if you have that, probably stamp it and rip it at the same time and kind of combine the systems, if you will. The other thing is beware of the telephone scams, like we already said. Another major issue, especially in the senior community, is keeping track of your mail. In the senior community particularly, if you're going to be going away to see a grandchild, your daughter, your son, ask a friend or a neighbor to please come and check your mail, Make sure, you don't let your mail pile up in the mailbox, because this is going to be a clear indication to these thieves that you're not home. And most likely, if you haven't checked your mail in the last 3-4 days, they're going to score important information in that bundle of mail. So you got to be very careful. Or if you're ill and you don't have great mobility within your home, again, have your neighbor help you. Bring that mail in for you. You don't want to sit in there. Edwin, if you're a victim of identity theft, can you tell me what are some of the steps some of our friends out there can take to approach the situation and resolve it?
If you suspect you're a victim of identity theft, this is what you should do. Contact your bank and credit card companies immediately and let them know what's your situation. File a report with the police. Even though the police can't do anything very much, but you need that report to clear up the problem. File with the Federal Trade Commission using its online complaint form at www.ftc.gov, or call the theft hotline at 1-877-ID-THEFT. Put out a fraud alert to the credit reporting agencies, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Top 8 ways to protect yourself. Be aware that you are at risk from strangers and those closest to you. And I'm talking about relatives also, so be careful. Do not isolate yourself. Stay involved. Always tell solicitors, I never buy from or give to anyone who calls or visits me unannounced. Send me something in writing. Shred all receipts with your credit card numbers. And if you don't have a shredder, you can tear them up vertically and throw them in the trash, maybe 2 different barrels. Sign up for the Do Not Call list, 1-888-382-1222, and take yourself off the multiple mailing list. Use direct deposit for benefit checks. Never give your credit card or Social Security, Medicare, or other personal information over the phone unless you initiated the call. Be skeptical of all unsolicited offers. Protect your loved ones. Signs to look for. Unusual recent changes in the person's accounts, including atypical withdrawals, new persons added, or sudden use of seniors' ATMs or a credit card. Person suddenly appears confused, unkept, or afraid. Utility rent, mortgage, medical, other essential bills are unpaid despite adequate income. Caregiver will not allow access to the senior. Filed up sweepstakes mailings or magazine subscriptions or free gifts, which means they may be on a suckers list. I have a question for you, David. What are the steps to take for victims of financial fraud?
Victims of financial fraud. How can you start unraveling the financial fraud? Well, one thing that is very important for all of us, but especially in the senior community, is don't feel ashamed. Don't feel that because you think you're old, maybe you're losing your mind, that you were taken. No. This happens to everyone. But nevertheless, seniors are targeted because of the reasons Edwin mentioned before. Their loneliness, lack of friends, frailties of the age, not being willing to say, let their relatives know I've been scammed because they're afraid what the reaction is going to be. Maybe they're going to lose some independence. Those things. But things are just going to get worse if you don't ask for help. Call your bank or credit card company. It's very important. Most of these organizations are going to help you because at the end of the day, they're also going to lose money if things are not resolved. If you find that your checkbook has been compromised, nowadays the debit cards is basically your checkbook, but it's electronic. So if your checkbook has been compromised or you lost it, or vice versa, you lost your debit card, you need to close that account, get new checks, and get a new debit card. That way they can't using or having access to that specific account. Call police to file a report. We already went over that. Contact legal services in your area. Again, here you can contact senior services. Like I said, we're located at 1070 Cranston Street, Cranston, Rhode Island. Get to know your banker. It's really important for you to start a good relationship with your banker. They're going to be more than happy to help you. After all, besides being in the money business, they're in the people business. So they're going to be more than happy to help you. Very important resources that are available for you, to you. There's 3 major credit bureaus in the country, like Equifax, and there's 2 more others that by law they're required to give you 1 report of your credit report per year free. This is by legislation, federal legislation. You can get a free report of your credit every 4 months. So you can monitor your credit yourself every 3 years. You can go to annualcreditreport.com. There's also another way to stop junk mail coming to your house. It is a federal governmental website, onguardonline.gov. onguardonline.gov. And of course, last but not least, the do not call list. You can register your phone number so you don't get, the telemarketers calling you anymore. You go on the website that is called donotcall.gov. Now, very important, even if you register with this number, remember, maybe legitimate marketing companies are not going to call you anymore. But do you think people who are trying to make a buck trying to steal your identity, who are basically criminals, are going to not call you because you're on that list? Of course not. They're going to call you. So you still have to be aware and alert about that. You know, it's very important to protect yourself, be informed, protect your loved ones. You need to be aware, be careful, always do your homework, you know, don't procrastinate. And if you become a victim, ask for help immediately. In conclusion, you need to be a savvy senior, you know, you just need to advocate for yourself. Edwin, any last comments for the good folks out there about this whole program that we're doing today?
One important thing that I receive all the time is I get these phone calls from telemarketers telling that they represent a company that's either a organization or a charity like cancer research, even like Special Olympics, looking for donations. And you know, I feel guilty not to get to something like that, especially a charity. And what I do is I try to put them on the spot by asking them to send me something in writing about the organization, their address, maybe contact people I can donate to, and name of the telemarketer I'm speaking to. And a lot of times they refuse to send that information. Well, if they refuse to send the information, then you can pretty much say that this is a scam or a swindle. So I tell them, if you can't send me information, I can't send you any money either. So that's a good, important thing to probably remember when you're dealing with these telemarketers. Thank you.
Thank you, Edwin. And again, on behalf of the City of Cranston, the Cranston Department of Senior Services, and of course the RSVP program, which stands for Retired Senior and Volunteer Program, funded by the Corporation for National and Community Service in Washington, D.C. It's been great for us to be doing this program for you. I hope you folks learned and were able to take some notes. And again, you're welcome anytime to come and visit us here at the Department of Cranston Senior Services. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great day. Remember, if you are ever in a need of help because you've been scammed, you are more than welcome to contact the Cranston Department of Senior Services, where we have a staff that is going to be able to help you get a solution to your problem. We are centrally located on 1070 Cranston Street, Cranston, Rhode Island, and this is a great homey place.
Please feel free to call anytime between the hours of 8:30 and 4. We will more than be happy to help you in any way we can.